Yeah, I guess that you made the important point in this discussion, that is what has changed the most in doctoral education, in training through research, as a generic term, not as a discipline of research on doctoral education. We're not speaking of research on doctoral education, we're speaking of doctoral education in any discipline. But you made the good point when you say that we are shifting progressively from the first stage of a research career ending with a dissertation and so on, to the concept of a process of training through research during which you gain some competences, some qualifications, some skills you could develop in any activity in the development of your career. And I guess that is the most important thing, and it's why we shouldn't have a model, because there are different ways to achieve this process. But if we don't have a model, if we have different ways, we do not diminish our need for quality. And democratization doesn't go with less quality of doctoral education for most of the doctoral candidates. It should go with the same range, the same level of quality, but in different ways of implementing that quality policies. And I get that it's all about the Bologna process. It's why this evolution of doctoral education in Europe fits in the Bologna process, not on the normative aspects of the Bologna process for bachelor and master, which does not apply to doctorate and to research, because you can't organize research as you organize taught courses. But still, it's a question of the outcomes of the degrees. And one big difference now in the view we have in Europe is that you don't enter university to end with a doctorate and possibly an academic career, but you enter the university with a project, and according to your capacities and to your project, you could exit university successfully with a bachelor, with a master, or with a doctorate. And at each level corresponds a set of competences, of qualifications, of opportunities of career development we have to develop. And so I guess that's an important thing, and it fits quite well with differentiation.
These are such complex questions that were raised. Oftentimes when we have these kinds of discussions, we end up, this happens so much often in America, that when we talk about issues of access and equity and expanding opportunities, there's always someone or some segment that says, well, I'm going to be very colloquial now, well, quality's gone down the drain. So much for quality now. We're expanding opportunity, we're expanding equity, we're expanding access. So I would hope that one of the fundamental premises of such an insightful and wonderful network as this would be to disband that premise and to start from the fundamental precept that access and equity is and should and can be synonymous with quality. So that would be one. And then to your question about the North and the South, I mean, in a way, we're all sitting here and we really are, each and every one of us, part of the elite. I mean, we don't probably often think of ourselves in those terms, but maybe not monetarily, but certainly education-wise, we are part of the elite. And so somehow we have a responsibility, each and every one of us in different ways, to address the very issue that you so well articulated. And it seems to me, again, it can be done by networks, but it also can be done that we go home and we become ambassadors in our own right with a social responsibility. I mean, Stan, is it Stan? You talked earlier about being, Scott, my apology, about being in the seminary. It's going to sound like now I'm in the clergy or something, but that we have, we do have, in a way, a moral or an ethical or responsibility or professional integrity, let's couch it like that, to be ambassadors for change and to involve people in whatever forums, venues we can, who are, quote, part of the South in our own respective countries, and to expand those dialogues and to hope that through dialogues and what Vedic was getting at earlier, which is so important, and that is the democratization of quality education from grade one, which has a ripple effect. So, I think there's no one answer. Our colleagues gave very good comments, but I think that we have to say that we are the change agents, and we have to continue to believe in the notion that not everyone will get a PhD. I think not everyone should get a PhD, clearly, but that we provide opportunities for everyone to be able to get that PhD, and as agents of education change, that we make sure that happens.
I caught the word short there. I know what you're saying. I was only going to pick up on what Barbara said, because first of all, I think it's very important to get clear whether there is a risk to the PhD and the standard of PhD. It was very popular amongst certain rich middle classes around dinner parties in the UK when student numbers in universities began to rise, to talk about more meaning worse. And I've sat at dinner parties and heard people say, there are so many graduates these days that my daughter can't get a job. And you'd ask them a little bit more. And at the time, because I've been around a long time, it was because one of these upstarts that had got a polytechnic degree had actually managed to get the job that their daughter or son had been chasing. I don't believe that more has to mean worse in any sense at all in doctoral level. Certainly not if we double the number of doctorates or triple the number of doctorates that are currently being produced. In terms of creating different opportunities, I mean, what we call in the UK professional doctorates, where people come in usually in mid-career or even late career, bringing the whole of their professional experience into a doctorate and the work that they've done in their professional activity, learning, if they need to learn, the proper ways of research development and research ideas and methodology in order to produce a thesis which is just as good as one that's produced by somebody who starts at the proverbial 22 and works through the normal system. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it is a completely different way of generating lots of new knowledge and lots of expertise in that person. And frankly, I don't believe that in the past a humanities degree was the same as a degree in science, was the same as a degree in engineering, and so on. And I realised that I always thought that, but when I became director of a graduate school and I had to read the reports on every single examination, and for that matter, the report on the thesis before the examination, if I'd ever thought they were the same, I can assure you I realised they were different. And I realised how ignorant I was of the whole area of other people's research methodology. But I have absolutely no doubt they were as good as what I knew as a straightforward scientific PhD.
Thank you very much for your very concise statements, and I would also like again to thank our speakers, the whole task force, and our excellent commentators. I think we have had a very profound discussion, so I think we should give an applause to all of them.